Hey guys, and welcome to this week's edition of Modeling Monday with Clear Signal Productions. Today I've got a review that I'm really excited to show you guys. I've been anticipating the arrival of this package since last week and it finally got here. And today I'm going to be reviewing Rapido's FL9 in the New Haven paint scheme. So let's get started. Alright, so as I try to do with most of my reviews, I like to unbox the engine for the first time so you guys know what you can expect. Now, as you saw earlier, I got this one from Model Train Stuff, so the outside boxing may vary depending where you ordered the engine from. But the inside should pretty much be the same, I would assume. And we'll take a look right now. So we'll just razor blade the whole box here. It's a pretty good sized box from Model Train Stuff. I know the engine box isn't this big because I've seen reviews already. And I've heard a lot of great things about Rapido, so I'm excited about this one. Okay, so now we've gotten down to really the meat of what's in the box. Now, Model Train Stuff does include a packaging slip, which I'm not going to show you because that's got my personal information on it. But that's also included, so in case you have any problems with your order, if you happen to get someone else's order, you can contact them, or if your box is empty for some reason, so things like that. They include a packaging slip, and now we can take the box out and get rid of the actual package. So, we've got a really nice looking box. Probably one of my favorites. It's actually got a picture of one of the prototype FL9s, and you've got FL9 in the bottom right in big print. So this is definitely a little nicer looking as opposed to maybe one of these Bachmann Plus boxes. So if you've got a lot of different companies, this definitely stands out from what I've seen before. Now on the side you've got Rapido Trains Inc. right here, and I ordered New Haven paint scheme as built number 2016, and you've got the product number, and you've still got some packaging dust there, and on the back is blank, and then you've got the first, just take the band off, the first ever accurate model of the unique New York, New Haven, and Hartford locomotive, FL9 locomotive. So, if you've been in HO, it is true that Rapido is the first to release an FL9, as far as I know. So we'll go ahead and we'll take the locomotive out now. Okay, so pretty good boxing. Like I said before, you just have two little tabs on each side of the box, which you can just lift up and they'll release. If I can manage this on the camera, maybe not. Alright, so the lid is off, and we'll just set that aside there. And then you have the box, you have decals, you have a lot of forms. I've seen reviews before, so I won't go too in depth because I'm sure there's already a lot out there. But you have a whole decal sheet of any road number you want. So if you buy the undecorated version, you can number it to anything here. And this is the whole roster, I believe, of New Haven's FL9s. So if you wanted to number yours to one that still exists, you can do that. This is the entire roster, as far as I understand. And then you have Rapido's manual. and you have the French version, as it says up here. And then you just flip it over. Oop. And then you have English on other side. So, I've heard a lot of things about the manual too, like they go into a lot of depth. And yeah, so they were right. English on the other side. For some reason it's labeled here, but it's actually this side is English. But you have the French manual here. I can try to read it, but probably won't come out too great. So we'll flip over to the English side. So you have your table of contents, and I'll just go through that real quick. You have the break-in, or the run-in, prototype information, checking and adjusting your locomotive, missing or damaged parts, removing the shell, extra parts, operation in DC or silent, installing a decoder in a DC model, operation DCC/DC with sound, and then locomotive address. And you just have a lot of bullet points for other things you can do. So, at the very bottom, you have the FL9 DCC function quick reference list. And we will be getting into all of these very soon. So, I've heard that the guys at Rapido put a lot of humor into their manuals. So, they've got the break-in there, prototype, but it goes into depth a lot. It looks like it's one of the nicer manuals I've seen, and you've actually got a real nice picture of the prototype again on the front cover. And the last thing included, other than the engine, is the diagram of the many parts on the locomotive. So, if you need to do something, you've really got a lot of little things, and you know where they'll go again. And then you have the listing, so if you lose them or if you need another one, then you've got just the product number, I think. I can't really read that, but it looks like on the left is what it is in the picture. The middle looks like the product number, and the right looks like the quantity. Oh yeah, it even says that. Yeah, picture number, part number, and then quantity that is included. So, that's it for documentation. And now let's remove the locomotive. So, in the box you have a layer of foam that you just take right off, and then you have the engine. So, here it is in the box, but still looks really nice. Now, looks like we have something up top here in this little area. It's a diaphragm, maybe an extra one. It would help if it's on the camera, I suppose. It's an extra diaphragm or just a diaphragm, a ladder, and something custom painted for New Haven. So I'll look at what these are when we open the locomotive up. Alright, so after removing the engine from the entire foam casing, you just have a few pieces of foam, and they actually have a whole plastic window, or a glass window you could say, around the whole thing. So I'll just go over to the other side and remove that. Okay, so that is really all there is to it. Before we continue with the review, I'm just going to move a couple boxes in here so that we have more room, or I have more room to get you guys some better angles. So I'll be back in just a bit. Alright, so this is a little better. Now after you remove the glass window, you have a flap on the end. It just comes off. You have some loose foam pieces. I don't know if they should be loose or not. But after that is all gone, and after my arm's out of the way, you have the whole locomotive itself and more loose foam. Alright, so like pretty much all of my reviews, I like to go over one section of the locomotive at a time. So I'll do the front left side, and then the back left side, and then I'll do the actual front of the engine and the back, and assuming the left and right side are the same. So this would be the front left, and in the front left there's a lot of little things that you usually don't see. Of course we don't have an FL9 to compare it to, because this is the first one, but still, it's not bad. So right up in the front, you have number boards, right here, which are kind of out of view from this angle. But then, from just far back from the number boards, you have the cab, which appears to have a lot of separately applied parts, which is a good thing. And you have a door, which does not open. I have seen opening doors, but that's not a bad thing. You have your stairway to get down to the ground level. So, going back up again, you have the grates along the side, which are actually see-through. Well, not totally see-through, but you can tell, even on the camera, you can tell that there's a unit in here, or in here, because it's not just a wall. There's actually something, exhaust will be coming out of there on the prototype. So just under the exhaust you have the porthole, and then you have New Haven clearly printed on the middle, kind of. The middle of the front left, you could say. But after that, in the pretty much the center, you have NH for New Haven, which is their logo. Really nicely printed there, looks good. And I don't see any problems. But one thing I do like is we actually have more exhaust right here in the middle of the N. There's a little bit of exhaust fans there, which is nice looking. So coming to the back of the locomotive, it's pretty much the same, except there's no cab on this end. Once again, going right of the New Haven, or NH, just under the H you have some fuel tank detail. It looks like the dial, or the gauge, to see how much fuel is left. And you have the emergency cap, so if you hit that, I guess it drains all the fuel, or something like that. And to the left is something that I can't quite make out, so I can't totally say what that could be. Now in the back, once again, you have another truck, and on the FL9, this is a little unique. The FL9s are what they would call Bo-Co diesels. Bo being for 2 and Co for 3, just like the alphabet. So the FL9 having a two-wheel truck in the front and a 3-wheel truck in the back earned the name Bo-Co, or the classification of Bo-Co. So most engines are Bobos or Cocos. Sounds a little funny to say, but that's just a little fact for you if you didn't know that already. So, back on track, the FL9 is a Bo-Co, and above the 3-wheel truck, you have another door with no window this time. You have a porthole just to the left of the door, and you have some writing, which it'd be a miracle if I could read it. Or no, that's not writing, that's just detail, because from this distance, it almost looked like some writing. And coming around to the very back, you have your road number. Looks like there's even step lights down here, which may or may not work. And then at the very back, you have the road number, 2016. Looks good, nicely printed. And then the back, which you can't totally see, you have your headlight and the diaphragm and we'll get into the back right now. Alright, so on the very back of the locomotive, you have at the bottom, you have your coupler, which I assume is KD. Not totally sure what they have in Canada, but you have your knuckle coupler at least. You have MU hoses, which I'm not sure if they're silver tipped or not. Can't quite tell on the camera even, but that's okay if they aren't. Not everyone has that. And on the very back, which you may or may not be able to tell, you have little kind of rungs or raised surface kind of on the back going up. I'm assuming this was perhaps to act as a kind of ladder, or maybe if you coupled engines too hard or something like that. Probably in the manual you could find out. At the very top in the back, you have your single headlight, which we will see when the track power is applied. You have your door, which once again does not open, and you have a porthole window in the door. And the diaphragm is not attached. So if you plan to run two engines together or passenger service, you would add the diaphragm. So we'll go up to the front of the locomotive, then we'll hit the roof, and then we'll hit the very bottom. Alright, so up in the front here, pretty much what you would expect from any cab, and the cab's the most important part of the engine. So, in the very front, on the roof, you have your Hancock air whistle, which appears to be askew. So I'll just adjust that a little bit. So you have the Hancock air whistle. You have the windows to see forward. And you have separately applied windshield wipers, which I'm assuming don't work, but that'd be really cool. You have the road number, or number board. And you have working class lights, which you will see when the power is applied. And you have your headlight, which, as again, we will see when power is applied. You have New Haven on the very front, which you can kind of see on the camera. Not sure if there's a door on the front or not. Guess I could rotate it. So on the very front, you have your headlight, which now we can see is two lights. One on the right, one on the left. And then you do have a door in the very front, which does not appear to have an outside handle, but I'm assuming there's one inside. You have the number boards, working class lights, you have your knuckle coupler, and MU hoses. So overall, it's a really nice looking engine. I'll show you guys the roof and the underbody, and then we'll move on to sounds and operation. Alright, so this is really the best view of the roof I could get. Considering it's the roof, there's not a whole lot in the front or in the back, so I'll just show you guys the whole thing at once, and this is the best angle I could get. So, in the very front, starting from the Hancock air whistle, there's a space, and then there's a one radiator fan for the exhaust, I'm assuming, that comes out right here. So those two components, I'm assuming, are paired together. Now, I'm not sure if the radiator fans actually rotate. I've seen that on MTH models, and it's really cool. So we'll just blow on the fans and we'll see. They do not appear to rotate at all, really. But that's not a bad thing. Still a nice engine. You have three more fans for cooling the engine, and in between the first and the second fan you have your exhaust, where smoke comes out of the engine right here. You have what looks like some piping on the left side, or this side really, of the engine, running along the fans, and behind the three fans you have a little unit which may be something to do when the engine is in third rail mode, because you wouldn't have anything out of here. That's what this may be for. In the very back on the roof, you have a little unit, two little units actually, which do something that I'm not sure of. So, the roof, it's a roof. You can't get too crazy with it, but it's one of the better roofs. Rapido and MTH seem to have pretty good detail overall on all their engines. So we'll go ahead and look at the underbody, and then we'll get into sound and operation. Alright, now, as it would appear, what I've heard is true. Rapido does do some really nice underbody detail. You have a lot of little things, little details that just make the whole thing look a lot better that most companies don't go the distance to do. So I'll just show you the three-wheel truck because it probably has the most detail. The red here that you see is the third rail pickup, which does not actually operate. So you have the three wheels, 1, 2, 3. You have your traction, motors, gearing inside there, just like the prototype. You've got a lot of pipes, which you can't really see from this angle. I'll flip it over right side up again. You have a lot of little detail, which makes the whole truck just look a lot better. So, pretty much the same all around. Under the engine, you have some tanks, which you usually don't see from many modelers or model companies, but you have 1, 2, 3 tanks, likely for air or something of the sort. So, now the meat of the entire review is sound and operation. Alright, so to start the locomotive, after you apply track power, I've heard all you need to do is push F8, so we'll go ahead and listen to the startup. Alright, so it's a pretty good startup sequence. One of the better startups that I've heard. So I'm assuming to turn off the sounds, it's the same thing as, yeah, it is, or shut down, I guess. So that's the shutdown. So we'll go. Not sure what it's doing now. Okay, I guess that was the end of the shutdown. So we'll go through the 14 functions. I can only do 9 because of the controller I have. So we'll go through the 9 functions, and we'll hear the startup again. So F0 is the headlight, which comes on nice and bright. I'll show you that when we get into operation, and I'll turn the lights off. So F1 is the bell. F2 is the horn or the Hancock whistle. So the whistle's pretty nice sounding. It's got a little quill at the end and a little quill at the start. F3 is what they call straight to 8, and from what I've seen in other reviews, this is full RPM when you're just sitting there and you go straight up to notch 8. So that's F3. Not sure if you have to be moving while you do this. We'll take a look for F3 straight to 8. This unique feature simulates the prototypical operation of the FL9 locomotive. New Haven engineers did not slowly go through the notches if leaving a station and a clear signal. On a clear signal, I should say. they would put the locomotive straight from notch 2 to notch 8. Similarly, when approaching a station, engineers would go right back down to idle and coast to a stop. This sounds very different from a typical freight engine slowly notching up to 8 and back down again. When F3 is selected, the locomotive will ramp up quickly to run 8 full power. If you deaccelerate, it will go right back down to idle. If you push F3 when the locomotive is at notch 8 and you deaccelerate, it will notch down normally. Note that this function controls the sound only and not the motor speed. Motor speed is still controlled by using the throttle settings as normal. So, we'll get into F3 when we move the engine. F4 seems to be the dynamic brake, so F4 I'll also show you while we're moving. F5 is the Doppler horn, or the Hancock whistle, so we'll go ahead and listen to that now. So F5, the Doppler horn, is a crossing sequence, and it says, play this when approaching level crossings at speed. It is a real recording of an FL9, complete with the original Hancock air whistle, zipping past a level crossing at speed with 5 cars in tow. It sounds fantastic, if we don't say so ourselves. Special thanks to David for letting us use his sounds, and for recording it in the first place. We'll listen to that one more time, and it does sound really good. And one thing about the general sound of the engine is that it's not too loud, and you've got a good sound level. Like we've seen with Broadway Limited, they'll ramp up the sound on their engines. So we'll listen to the Doppler horn one more time. Alright, so I really think that sounds good. That's one of my, probably going to be my favorite of the 9 functions that are included on this engine. So F6 is the steam generator. Press F6 at any time to start up the steam. So there's the steam generator sound. So it says we don't include random loud blowdowns, but we include the irregular hiss that you can hear from coming from the regulator and blowdown valves all the time when the steam generator is operational. So I think the steam generator provided heat for the passenger cars in tow, is what I have heard. The rest of the paragraph is, when you accelerate, the volume of the steam generator gets lower, as you wouldn't hear it as clearly when the train is moving. If you want more steam in big bold print, you can adjust the volume of the steam generator by adjusting the value of CV315. Please refer to the sound volume settings below before attempting this. So F6 will just turn off now, and that's the steam generator. So I'm assuming by the big bold print more steam, which actually ironically came into focus first, that Rapido is wishing to do steam. And if you look at their webpage, they are releasing a Canadian steam line. So that line of engines is coming out next year or the year after, I think. So around 2017. So F7, dim the headlights. So I guess I'll just bring the engine back, I'll kill the lights, and we can see the dim headlights in action. Alright, so there's the headlight at its full brightness. And if you noticed, you do actually have some light leaking through down where the steps are, which you could say are step lights. They don't appear to shine in the back, but it's still a nice, perhaps accidental feature or intentional. But F7, if I can see it now, is dim headlights. And they did dim, and they aren't sudden. They're nice, they flow into a nice, different level. Could almost keep hitting it and have a flashing effect or a beacon. So that looks pretty nice, especially in the dark. And while we have the lights off, we'll take a look at the class lights in white. And that is all that I can show you due to the controller I have. Now the class lights don't seem to be very visible, as I'm assuming they're kind of dim, because they were prototypically. You can kind of see them, I think, if they're on. I'll read about the class lights and we'll see. Here it is. Fan trips, Christmas specials, and special moves, you name it. The FL9 hauled some unique scheduled trains many times over their long and varied careers. All extra trains require white flags or classification lights, so you will want to press F9 to turn on the white class lights when pulling a non-scheduled train, such as track inspection or a holiday special. On regular scheduled passenger runs, the class lights are off. So it's either my eyes, or I just really can't see them, or the engine needs to be moving. So we'll bring the lights back on, and we'll get into some operation. Alright, so with the operation, I'll show you F3, which is straight to 8, which is only in effect when the engine's moving. So we'll go ahead and start to move the engine now. And now we'll hit F3 and go straight to 8. I think I actually turned it off because I think it went into effect from when I hit it earlier. So we'll try it one more time and go straight to 8. So now the sounds are in effect and you have the full RPM of the engine, even at just notch 2. And it'll pick it up a little bit. Alright, so that was a little bit of operation. And before we move on, I'll show you guys, at the end, I'll show a run by at full throttle, and then a run by at probably half throttle. But before we get to that, there's a few things in the manual that are pretty interesting. first we'll go to page 13, which is horns, and I'm assuming that's the selection of horns that you get with the engine. So, horns. There are 2 extra horn recordings included with your FL9, and you can change them around by changing the CV value of 48. CV48. The default is the Hancock air whistle, which was a New Haven staple, and the horn of these locomotives used for most of their service lives. The K5LA and Leslie S2 were for the later editions for Amtrak and Metro North and CDOT respectively. So we'll go ahead and look at the different horn, or listen to the different horns right now. And I'll just program on the main because that's the easiest way. So CV48 and set it to 1 and change it. And we'll listen to the horn now. So obviously it didn't work. Try it one more time. Alright, so here we go. Note that you can only change the horn on a programming track or using a lock programmer, because this is loc sound, so you need a loc programmer or a program track. I guess we can't listen to the different horns. There is one thing that I've heard about which sounds pretty interesting. It's called the awesome slow speed thingy. And yes, it actually says the awesome slow speed thingy in the manual right there. So from what I've seen is this is a slow operation mode where you basically is for switching or just going around the yard or something like that. But it says awesome slow speed thingy, highly recommended. Here is an awesome trick that you can use to get even better slow speed running and smoother operation. It's called the automatic motor tuning feature. This feature will automatically adjust the back EMF in most cases and give you phenomenal slow speed performance. Make sure you do this to each locomotive separately rather than your A and B units together. In order to use the automatic adjustment, you just need to use ops mode for programming, which I think you need the track to do. Or wait, no. Sorry, you need the ops mode programming, i.e. programming on the main. Make sure your locomotive is set in forward and you have lots of room in front of your main line. And I've seen what happens when you don't, so I will make sure I have room. Program mode ops, and then set CV54 to 0. Then get out of programming mode and turn the bell on by pushing F1. We'll say it again, make sure you have plenty of room. So, didn't do it right. Alright, so I guess that's what happens when you don't do it right, because it says your FL9 will quickly take off at full speed and gradually slow down to a stop while the decoder reads the motor responses. You'll have fabulous motor control after you do this. Oh, okay, so we'll try it again. So I guess that was right. Oh yeah, so that's at full throttle. And the motor control does appear to be a lot better. Probably be good if you guys could see it, I suppose. So I'll show you that one more time. And I might keep it this way. So I guess the horn decided to work. So I think that's the S2. But I'll back it up. And I'll show you the awesome slow speed thingy. So that's the awesome slow speed thingy. And I'll go up to full power and I'll show you how it operates. And the manual just fell. So that's the awesome slow speed thingy in action. And it actually went quite a distance until it decides to stop. But I'll bring it forward again. Well, I guess before we do that, we could listen to the other horn now that it decided to change. So, CV48, and we'll set that to 1, I guess. And we'll listen to the horn now. I think I need to set it to 2. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, it hit the dead spot in the back. So I think changing the horn, I think you might need to restart the engine. Alright, so I seem to have got the Leslie S2 working in. It just hit the dead spot. There it goes. Oop. And it hit that track is not too great in the back of my layout. Alright, so now that the Doppler is done going off, I guess that's your sign that you're back on track power if you hit a dead spot. We'll listen to the Leslie S2. I guess it wasn't on the track. Don't you love it when reviews don't go as planned? I suppose it makes for an exciting time. So we'll listen to the S2 again. So that's the Leslie S2. I don't think I'm gonna keep it this way. I'll probably keep it as to what New Haven actually had. I think to change the horn completely, you take the engine and shut it down and start it back up. So we'll do that, and then I'll be back and we can wrap up the review. Alright, so before we completely wrap up the review, I mentioned I would show a few run-bys. So here's a run-by at about half speed. Alright, so to conclude the review, this is a really fantastic locomotive in both the shining light or at nighttime. And you've got some really nice lighting effects. So MSRP for the engine is, I believe, around $350, and you can find several deals at model train stuff for about $280 and shipping. And you have Train World, which is somewhere in the 300s. So model train stuff, I believe, is the way to go for now. They don't have every road number, so you might have to go to Train World and spend the extra money due to model train stuff being out of stock. The engine's great. It's got some of the best detail I've ever seen. The slow speed thingy I really like. It is awesome, as the title suggests, the awesome slow speed thingy. I'm going to keep my engine that way because I really like the control on the motors and the slow speed control. So it's got a lot of nice features that you have right out of the box. They don't use all 28. They only have 12, I believe, or 14. But the functions that you get are really nice sounding, like the Doppler, which you heard earlier. It's just a really great engine. To rate it, I haven't been rating engines in a while, but I don't know if I will again, but this one would be rated pretty high. For detail, for sound and lighting, definitely. Operation, more than likely. The one thing about operating is it's a fast engine. If you hold it at full throttle, and to take a video and have it at full throttle wasn't too easy. So it's a great engine, you just gotta know how to handle it. The trucks are phenomenal. I've never seen truck detailing quite like Rapido does. It's a really nice product altogether. So I highly recommend getting one, and the cars that were behind it are not from Rapido. The only thing Rapido made in the video was the engine itself. Just wanted to point that out. And you can expect another review pretty soon, which is something special that I'm not going to give away. But I do know that the package is estimated to arrive tomorrow. So next week on Monday you can look for that review. And a few tutorials and a layout update are coming your way. So do stay tuned, and as always, thank you for watching.